We will now show you the Calcuknit. It is a very easy way to do your charting. It's a small compact compartment that goes into your purse very easily. When we open it up, you will see what looks to be like a pocket calculator. You have an on and off switch over to the right-hand side, and when you turn that on, you will see a cursor appear next to the calculator mode. The cursor is telling you that you're in that mode and you can do any functions that a pocket calculator would do. You can add, subtract, multiply, and divide. When we press the button that has the 3 slots on it, we move our cursor down to the Knit Calc mode, and that is the mode that we want to be in when we are doing our calculations for the Knit Calc. You also have a grid at the top of the lid. This is giving you all of the shapes that you can chart to with your Knit Calc. First of all, you need to determine your stitch gauge. When you see the flashing symbol on top of the 0, it is asking you for the stitch gauge. Your stitch gauge must be over a 10 centimeter reading. You can use inches, which we will talk briefly about in a few minutes. If your swatch has given you a reading of 2.3 stitches to the centimeter, you will multiply that times 10 to give yourself a stitch gauge of 23 stitches. You will input 23S, and that is your stitch gauge. If your row gauge was 4.6 centimeters per row, rows per centimeter, then you would multiply that times 6, and you would input that figure plus the R to get your row gauge. At that point, you will see the flashing letters that indicate that you are now ready to do charting. We will be using this book to help us with our charting. In there you will find a number of grids for various sizes that you can chart to. It has been laid out so that you have inches or centimeters, whichever one you are comfortable with using. If you decide to work with inches, instead of calling the cm key the centimeter key, you call it an inch key. Everything else works the same. And we have found in teaching this that a lot of people are more comfortable with their inches than they are with their centimeters. So if you are more comfortable with that, by hitting the AC button, that has cleared out everything I have input to this point. And if I was getting 7 stitches to the inch, I would hit 7, because 7 times 10 is 70 for my stitch gauge. And if I am getting 11 rows to the inch, I would hit 110 R. Now I have input that information in inches versus centimeters, making my CM key as an IN key. Now we can go to the A mode by hitting our arrow key here, and we are in the A mode, which allows us to input or find out the number of stitches and or rows we will be knitting over a certain area. I will use a couple of examples. If we were making this particular size, we need to cast on 22.4 centimeters worth of stitches. We will hit 22.4 centimeters stitches, and it will tell me I need to cast on 157 stitches. Likewise, if I am going to knit from the top of my ribbing to my arm's eye 13.8 inches, I will then put in 13.8 centimeters rows, and it will tell me I need 152 rows in that area. When you go in and figure out all your calculations, at this point you do not need to clear out anything to get the next step. You just go in and input the figures that you're asking for. We recommend that you go around your pattern and get all the rows and stitches in at one time. Once you have done that, you can go into the C mode and you can shape a round neck. You can go into the D mode and do shoulder shaping. You can go into the E mode and do an arm's eye calculation. You can go into the F mode, which allows you to do V-neck or raglan shapings. You can go into the G mode, which again gives you raglan shapings. H mode is a straight line decrease for four-gored skirts or for sleeves. I is a special mode that you can use for forming your own curves. J is another special mode that we can use for forming our own curves. K allows us to shape the size of the cap that we need. L does the actual charting of that cap. And then we're back to A. You also have up and down arrow keys here, and if I was in the H mode and figuring a decrease, if I needed to decrease 12 stitches over 40 rows, once I have input that information, I will get the up arrow key. I hit the up arrow key, and it will tell me I will knit 2 rows, decreasing 1 stitch 5 times. I still have the up arrow key, so I hit the up arrow key. Tells me I will decrease every 4 rows 1 stitch 7 times. You now see an up and down arrow key. That means you still have more calculations. So you hit the up arrow key. You see that you have 2 rows of knitting, and you will be completed with this section of knitting. You see the down arrow key. That means you have completed your shaping. Basically, this is how the knit calc works in all of its modes, using these arrow keys to get your decrease and increase schedules, using these keys to move back and forth between the modes. You also can call up your stitch gauge at any time in case you are wondering whether or not you have lost your stitch gauge, or if you've entered it incorrectly. You hit and hold down on this key, and it will show you at all times what gauge you have entered. As soon as you release it, you will be back where you were. And that takes us through how the Calcuknit works.